Thank you for listening to Common Ground here on 100.7 WZLX, and for joining me. My name is Kimberly. I'm pleased to let you know that I have invited James Redfield back for another interview, and I hope you'll enjoy it. And if you're not familiar with James, he is the author of The Celestine Prophecy, which actually was first published in 1993, actually self-published. And then a major publisher picked it up in about 1995, and it was the #1 American book in the whole world. The novel spent over 3 years on the New York Times best-selling list and appeared on lists all around the world and continues to be out there. At this point, the book has been made into a movie, which is available on DVD at this time. Just a little background about James. When he was a young man, he studied Eastern philosophies, including Taoism and Zen, and he was also majoring in sociology at Auburn University. Then he later received a master's degree in counseling, and he spent more than 15 years as a therapist to abused adolescents. And during that time, he was drawn into the human potential movement, and he turned to it for theories about intuition and psychic phenomena that would help his troubled clients. And he has been helping people ever since. So we have quite a few things to talk about. So I'm pleased to welcome back James Redfield here to Common Ground. James, what a pleasure to be able to talk with you again. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to be with you.
Happy 2008. I'm really looking forward to this year. I don't know why, but I just have a great feeling about it. How about you?
Well, me too. It's definitely a interesting year from all kinds of perspectives. We have the economy that's doing some interesting and challenging things in a lot of areas, but we also have this growing interest in spirituality and how the world really works and how do we create what we want, and all this sort of blossoming of taking this whole idea seriously.
Well, though, the paradox of that is that we need to not take ourselves so seriously, don't you think?
Well, we certainly don't need to go into fear and worry and
right.
all the things that, create other challenging events in our lives. I think that, the world is designed, and from my point of view, as you know, to allow our best dreams to come true. Now, for me, I differ a little bit with the law of attraction people in the sense that, yes, we can create anything we want, no matter from ego perspective or from a selfish perspective. We can do a lot of creativity out there, but what happens if we don't get it aligned with our highest goals, the goal of our highest self, our soul in this world? We don't get aligned there, then we have all kinds of little side challenge reminders. So the purest way of describing, I think, the way the world works is that it allows our best dream to come true, which challenges us to get in touch with what our best dream is.
Yes, lovely. I could go off many different angles from what you just said. The law of attraction. That's interesting that a lot of people now use that term, which is great. And, if you watch The Secret, it has some great aspects, but it's really missing a lot of the important aspects, which is one of the things that you just mentioned, being that you have to learn how to be your higher self or pay attention to yourself by being in your heart versus in your head. And the other way I would like to describe that is being in your ego mind, your mind, versus really following your heart and your soul piece. That's a really powerful thing, and your soul and the universe is always trying to teach you how to be more in that place.
That's exactly right, which is why if we come just from ego, we might get what we want, but then we find that what we wanted does not always work for us. We have all these wake-up calls and challenges that, as you say, are really trying to bring us around to what our soul wants in this lifetime. And what I mean by that is what our highest wisdom wants. And that part of us that gets in touch with what we can do to make the world better, to further a positive spiritual evolution in the world. That's what really raises us into a greater consciousness and is the most
And when you look at the history of mankind, that's what's very fascinating to watch, is where we are now. And that's essentially what the Celestine prophecy is talking about, and the insights, is that we are evolving as humans. I like how Barbara Marx Hubbard refers to it as conscious evolution. And we are definitely evolving consciously.
Well, there's no doubt about it. I mean, we're evolving more consciously, I think, at this point. And it's all about awakening to what and how we can operate in this world in a way that really does manifest positive change both in our lives and in the world in general. And I think we're slowly coming to understand how it works. And from my point of view, I think that there's a 12th insight, which means only that we're making a new step in consciousness generally in the world out there, and that step is one of integration, which really means we're putting it into practice. We're grasping it not just at the mental level, but at the sort of experiential level, so that we can really use this guiding intuition confidently, where we can also really perceive meaningful coincidences and take advantage of the opportunities they provide, so that we stay more in a higher consciousness flow of life. And that's something that, again, we just had to evolve into. It's one thing to understand that, yes, we can have a higher consciousness, and yes, we can see synchronicities in the world. Yes, there's that kind of mystery going on around our lives. It's one thing to just know that and mentally, but it's another thing to actually put it into practice, and that's what I think we're learning to do.
Well, it's kind of like we're relearning to do it. Don't you think? I mean, if you look back at the indigenous cultures and their connectedness to the earth and the universe and the stars, and paying more attention to their connectedness. So somehow we kind of got away from it, and we're relearning it and evolving into a new place.
Yeah, I'd certainly think that's true, but I think we're, the whole materialistic age was unfortunately necessary. The scientific age was necessary, so that we started to have some ways to, through consensus, to flesh out or expand the, our left brain, and then now we're coming back in, as you say, into balance, so that we're putting our intuitive side, this right brain side, into practice, while we still utilize the rest of the brain rationally. So we have a kind of intuitive rationality place that we're evolving into. That's a step forward, and unfortunately, I think we just had to go through that that stage where we de-emphasized the intuitive and worked on the practical, rational mind, and now we're coming back to the intuitive guidance that the indigenous people had.
Right, with the integration of science and what we've learned and technology, which we're going to talk more about. James Redfield on Common Ground at 100.7 WZLX, known for the Celestine prophecy. Should I call you the Celestine prophecy man? Whatever. And the science piece really fascinates me. I just have so much fun talking to people who are paying attention to the science and the quantum physics, and how the two are merging, spirituality and how energy works. And that's what Celestine prophecy is all about, is about the energy piece. And the energy piece is real, and it's scientific. Did you have a real awareness of that when you first wrote the Celestine prophecy?
Well, I think that, during the early 90s, we were just beginning to see the full picture of how science was taking us into this mysterious world. I mean, as we proceed with scientific inquiry, what happens is that this old mechanical, dead universe that Newton described, that universe has sort of gone away as a result of scientific inquiry. So we now know that what we think does influence our bodies, what occurs to us in our lives, our attitudes and matter, and that the world is looking more like a giant organism or a kind of what I like to call a dream machine. So what our attitudes toward the universe very, very directly influence the events that occur in our lives. And that's a great awakening scientifically, because more and more as science looks at this phenomenon, the more we're going to, I think, come back to a kind of unity with our intuitive side. So we're, in the end, going to realize that this world is, we're here to evolve. We're here to evolve human culture in a positive way. And we're here to actualize our own dreams in this regard, what we can do to help the evolution. And the surprising thing is that science now has revealed that the universe participates in that. It responds with opportunities once we get on the right path.
Mm-hmm. I've been paying attention to lots of different experiments that have been conducted over the years, and just the power of emotion to create, and also that we have the choice to choose our emotion, and our emotion affects everything around us, including our physical bodies.
That's exactly right, and it's such a great insight. And I think it's one of the ahas or revelations that's occurring right now. We really are understanding that we don't have to be a slave to our past conditioning. We can transcend that, and one of the ways is to realize that, as you say, we can choose our emotions. It doesn't mean we're not going to have emotions bubble up spontaneously all of a sudden and we realize we're jealous or we're envious or we're angry. It doesn't mean that, but it means that there's a kind of state that we can discover that the mystics have always talked about, whereby love is our main emotion. And as long as love is our main emotion, then whatever else comes up, we can return to love, as Marianne says. And that is the great secret, I think, to staying in a place where we have a positive emotional base that sends out this energy into the world that allows dreams to come true.
And as we know, there are the great mystics and the great ones that have known this and been teaching this for a very long time. But that's part of where I feel that we've evolved to, is that now there are lots of people, millions of people running around who have this understanding, and more people getting a better understanding of it all the time. And that's the conscious evolution piece, I think.
That's right. And I think there's one great challenge we have out there regarding it. And I think it's, can we stay positive in a kind of unitive state where we don't have enemies? We're not trying to battle against something. We're just cooperating, and we have this attitude that we're all in this together, and everybody's coming from their own point of view, and that sometimes appears to be conflicting, but it doesn't have to be conflicting if we stay out of that sense of conflict. Politically, you can see that we're still sort of trapped, in my opinion, with these are the people we're fighting against, and liberals are fighting against conservatives, and conservatives are fighting against liberals, and it all has suddenly this sense that, well, we can save the world, and each side is trying to save the world from its own perspective, and we're hung up now in a kind of phase of conflict, but I believe that we're starting to work through that.
That's a really important piece. I want to talk more about that. I'm talking with James Redfield on Common Ground at 100.7 WZLX. Yeah, what's been going on in the United States over the last few years, I wish that we could just kind of take the whole political system and throw it out and start over again. Because I look at that, and it's not one side or the other. It's almost like, well, it's like a football game somehow. I mean, there's this, we want to win and we want to win, versus why don't we work together? I'm not sure how we're going to get there, actually. But
well, I think that we just have to become aware of the fact that whoever we think is the enemy are just people with a differing point of view, and the more you dehumanize, the more George Bush becomes a conspiratorial caricature, or the huge corporations become, these Nazis. The more you have that kind of attitude, for instance, the more afraid they get, of course, and the more they act defensively. But also, the more we restrict ourselves in a way that we can't find areas of commonality, and we can't break through to these to places of not compromise but transcended ideas that sort of pull everybody together. But again, the more we understand how that's happening, that we're dehumanizing people out there as though they're not really humans, they're not really souls on this in this world with us, who have their own fears and points of views, and they can be transcended. Mm-hmm. The more we create that, we just create a stigma. So it's understanding that we can't, that this dehumanization on both sides of every single issue, conflict that's going on in the world, not just in the U.S., but in the world.
Right.
The more we can step back from that and say, okay, let's deal at the human level. Let's talk about and to these people as though they're human beings with souls and desires and can have a transcendent moment themselves, just like we have had. If we can do that, then we'll be able to break through this phase.
And we're moving in that direction. That's what we're talking about, which is a good thing.
Yes.
You're listening to Common Ground on 100.7 WZLX, and I'm talking with James Redfield. Real quickly, I do want to mention his website, so you have it. It's CelestineVision.com, so you can find out more information about everything that we are talking about. James, I'd like to move on and talk some about your global prayer project. How long have you been doing that now?
Well, we've been doing it over a year, and we call it the Global Prayer Project. This is a group of people, thousands strong now from around the world, who meet every 2 weeks and create a kind of prayer field vision that we send out to particular hotspots, conflicts in the world, challenges people are having in the world, and we don't take sides in issues or conflicts. What we do is we just hold this strong prayer field and kind of beam it out that visualizes everybody who is involved in the conflict stepping back, coming to a greater sense of their own higher spiritual consciousness, their own wisdom with which they can resolve problems. And we just visualize them being able to have a breakthrough in their own situation so that they can really think of something to do to move that conflict toward a peaceful resolution. And we do that toward all sides involved in the conflict. And we just hold that vision powerfully for a whole hour. And what we do really is that our first meditation is about 20 minutes, aimed at a conflict in the world, and then we just have some discussion, and then the rest of the time we really use the same prayer power and connection with thousands of people to actually form a big circle, and then people who are dealing with issues in their personal lives, the participants themselves, can go into this circle and feel that loving beam of prayer toward their whatever they're dealing with in terms of maybe illness or maybe grief, or maybe they're at a crossroads in their lives. And so we both pray for the world and try to uplift the participants at the same time, and we've had amazing results.
Yes, and you're not the first one to do this, and actually it's a good thing that there are more people who are doing exactly what you're doing. once again, I need to go back to science. There have actually been some scientific follow-throughs on this type of work, and I think of James Twyman doing this several years ago, and I thought maybe you might want to mention the science piece where it's actually been seen that when a group of people are together with their, I want to refer to it as non-judgmental space, just a space of putting out love, that it really can have a major effect.
Well, it really can, and maybe Dr. Larry Dossey is a great place if people want to read up on what we know scientifically about how prayer works. It's amazing, and what the research shows is that the more people praying together, the better it works, and the longer and more intensely one can hold a prayer vision, the better it works. And so that's what we're trying to do. We have thousands of people who really are committed every 2 weeks, and we're probably the largest ongoing prayer group in the world, where every 2 weeks we come together and we hold this visualization space. And we started off with North Korea at a time when it was very alienated from the rest of the world. Now we see it, they're cooperating with the UN. We started with Iraq, which was so much violence and death and destruction going on, and bombings every day. Well, that's improved considerably. It's not just because of us; it's because of everybody praying.
Right.
But it's just more evidence that if you take the time to do it, the prayer works. And the other piece is how much the participants, all of us, get from it, because there's something about being connected in this kind of group effort with thousands of people that just, the energy boost from that connection personally is just unbelievable, and you can just really feel that. But everybody can read all about it on our website. It's CelestineVision.com. So you can check it out and see what you think of it.
Yeah, I'll be mentioning all that stuff again at the end of the program, CelestineVision.com, talking with James Redfield on Common Ground at 100.7 WZLX. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the energy piece because, I don't know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, if somebody told me that a group of people in their mind and their emotions really made a difference and created energy, but it does. It's like, having been a part of it myself so many times, and that kind of goes back to what the Celestine prophecy was talking about, is that we actually emit this energy through our emotions. And so through the Global Prayer Project, essentially what's happening is that there are 1,000 people or hundreds of people all at the same time who are in a place of non-judgment and sending positive energy out, and it really resonates and it really moves. It's something that exists.
Well, and you can feel it. All the mystics talk about connecting with the divinity within ourselves, connecting with this kind of source of love and that is behind the whole world, behind us. It's the creative source of all life, and when we can connect with this energy, God energy within us, it feels like an energy. It feels like an energy coming through. It feels like we suddenly have more energy. So we feel lighter on our feet. It's very, very provable to oneself that if you visualize connecting with this divinity within ourselves, it comes through in a kind of an energy, and then it sheds light on what prayer is. Prayer is allowing this loving energy to come through us and out into the world. And as you say, you can prove it to yourself over and over again, the effect that has. My favorite demonstration is when all of us at one time or another will be in a restaurant and we'll have a waiter that's either hurting or angry, or you can just tell they're in a really down mood, and what we all do at the table is say, okay, let's uplift this person, let's send them energy, which is a concrete visualization of energy coming through us and going into into this person, and it never fails. You just keep doing that, and by the end of the dinner experience, you can see a difference in that person's demeanor, their friendliness, their kind of clarity about themselves. That's how it works. That's why prayer is so important, to send a visualization out to uplift the leaders of the world and help bring them into this kind of spiritual connection that we're talking about here. And then why it's so important, as I mentioned earlier, not to visualize leaders being monsters and Nazis and things like that, because what happens is that you're actually praying for them to act like that and to be that way. So it's a huge revelation, I think, that we can suddenly realize how much power we have by connecting to the divinity within ourselves and to send uplifting energy out there into the world.
Right, and the important piece that's hard for people, I think, to maybe understand is that when we were talking about the law of attraction, and I kind of like to explain how this works a little bit from my perspective, is that when you are viewing someone as a bad person, you're judging them, from your own belief system and whatever. And everyone, has a great sense of themselves. And I think most people are trying to do the best that they can. And if we can pull ourselves away from being judgmental of what we perceive as their actions being right or wrong, and just try to send energy of it to be the best that it can be, there's a difference there. And that's essentially, what you're doing with the Global Prayer Project. It's not a place of judgment, or we hope this happens, or we hope that happens. We hope the best will happen for all concerned, correct?
That's exactly right, and that the best possible resolution will take place. And you're on safe ground that way. You don't have to worry about whether you're praying for the right thing or not. You can just pray for the best outcome, the most divinely inspired outcome to occur. And you're on the right side. So I think that it's very important that we separate our discernment. Okay, you can if there's a child molester that's committing a crime, you're going to discern that that's there. You're not going to be non-judgmental. You can be non-judgmental personally, but you still will discern, well, that's wrong, and I need to take action to stop that. But what's different is that you send a positive energy to that person's soul, and at the same time that you're taking action to intervene. And what that does is it uplifts them maybe to their own discernment of a higher sense of right and wrong, and a higher sense of what's positive for another person, what's not, and then you're doing the best you can. Certainly, we have to discern enough to say, well, we see something out there, and we say, well, that's not good for everybody. We can say that without dehumanizing the person that may be perpetrating that non-good. So it's simple. Once we get down to the true understanding of it.
It is. James Redfield on Common Ground at 100.7 WZLX. I wanted to go back to the person in the restaurant who is having a bad day. We actually talked about this the last time that we talked, but I think this is really key because when we talked last time, I mentioned that I do the same thing. I have it's a game. I mean, and it's fun where someone seems to be a little bit down and I get eye contact with them and I make a compliment. Oh, that's whatever. I mean, a genuine compliment and kind of engage them. And I am amazed how someone who could be very grumpy all of a sudden has a smile on their face. And I've even taken it further in the last year where I was in a situation recently where a woman was very much stressed, talking to a client on a phone, and everybody who was standing in line could hear her and feel her stress and her angst. And so at that moment, I couldn't engage with her because she was in conversation with someone else, but I just stood there and I just kept blessing the situation, and I kept blessing her and I kept blessing the person on the other phone, just sending out, as much positive blessing as I could. And it was just amazing to watch how she started to calm down and it changed. And I challenge everybody to give it a try because it does. And the more you do it, you just see it. You see the mood and the energy change.
Well, I agree, and it is provable to oneself, and it also works toward oneself. In other words,
yeah,
if you're getting in a stressed kind of, you feel yourself going into some negative emotion, you can uplift yourself in the same way. Find that connection within. Just image it, that connection within. And visualize love coming into yourself. And it will work. It doesn't work some of the time. It works all of the time. It works every time. Now, some of our challenges or emotional states can be pretty intense, but it all ultimately works. And it's the secret of saving the world, and that we're I think coming to understand. And if everybody just put this giving of energy and connecting with energy into practice tomorrow, everybody in the world would transform completely overnight.
Yes. Wouldn't that be exciting? Well, that's why we're having this conversation, because we're trying to help others to understand how it works. And, what I like to do, which actually helped me be able to pay attention to my emotions, I really can pay attention to my emotions a lot. And what happens is that when I realize I'm in a place of stress or angst or whatever, and I realize that, I go to a place of gratitude where all of a sudden I can say, you know what? Hold on here. I have healthy children. I can walk, I can talk, and I have a roof over my head. And when I realize that I'm in one emotion and I switch it to a point of gratitude, then I can keep moving it in that direction. And science has shown that when we do those kind of things, we actually are changing our neural pathways in our brain. They can see this happening. And it's just so fascinating to, again, connect the science with what's really going on.
All right. And all these endorphins dump into our system where, it's just like a kind of tranquilizer. We have our own pharmacy inside that we just have to begin to command in a way. We just have to get, the key is visualizing this connection with the divine within, being in connection with divine intent in our lives. I even take it a step further and turn the problems over to this divinity. People have always done that. They've just said, well, I trust that God will take care of this. Well, that's the same mechanism that suddenly allows this energy to flow through you into all the people necessary for the greatest, most positive outcome to occur. So it's a way to not feel like we have to resolve every problem ourselves. All we have to do is create this kind of flow of divinity and faith in our situation, that it will be resolved, that the best outcome will occur, that everybody will resolve whatever challenge it may be, and just trust in that process. That allows us to relax and not feel like we have to control every small thing.
Right, and ultimately we really can only control ourselves, and we can only control our own emotions mostly, although we've just been talking about how we can help diffuse a heated emotion by putting our positive emotion out, because essentially the way I understand it is that light somehow has more of an influence over dark or heaviness. I don't know why it works that way, but it does.
Well, it was designed that way. The universe is a dream machine, and it's designed to work very positively and
right.
for everybody's growth. We just are only now learning how to tune into to that process.
Right, and pay attention to it. James Redfield with me on Common Ground at 100.7 WZLX, talking about a lot of things. I'll mention the website again, CelestineVision.com. Real quickly, I just wanted to mention that the Celestine Prophecy has been out on DVD now just for about a year, I guess, hasn't it?
That's right. And it's opening up in territories all around the world, and that's a good thing to see. And we just, we're really, it's really fun to have it out there because now we have a visual representation of the Celestine Prophecy and the whole idea that we're in tuning in and learning how to tune into a spiritual evolution that we're involved in. And it's fun to have another medium out there, and would encourage everyone who hasn't seen the movie to take a look at it. Give it to a teenager, because it's a movie that everybody can watch, I think, and just feel the energy of what we're talking about.
I have to say that when I first talked to you a year ago, I hadn't really revisited the insights for several years. And having read the Celestine Prophecy when it first came out, and a lot of my friends did, and it was just so fabulous and so wonderful. But the thing that was really fun for me is that I realized how far I had progressed and evolved myself personally from the insight that I got from the Celestine Prophecy so many years ago. So it keeps giving, and then I've read it again, and I think, oh, wow, I understand that so much better now.
Well, yeah, I think that we're all doing that.
Right, and I'm not alone.
and but because it's moving from a kind of mental aha to an integrative way of life, and to me, it's inevitable. We're designed to continue to have this kind of awakening. It's what our inner self wants most, and it's going to happen. And the more we talk about it and show how it looks and visualize how it looks, if we were all acting that way, the better.
Well, the thing that's fascinating, though, is that 30 years ago, we weren't even having these kind of conversations, not on the radio, and I've mentioned that many times. And now it's becoming mainstream. The law of attraction is a term that I hear people talking about all the time, which is fabulous. And that moves me into my own perception of we're moving into 2012, and there's also a lot of talk about that going on, and it's not something that was even really on my radar screen up until a couple of years ago. And I know it's something that you talk about, and I just thought maybe we could take a couple of minutes and you could share your perception of what it's all about and why we're talking about 2012, etc.
Well, 2012 is the end date of the Mayan calendar. The Mayans had possibly the most sophisticated calendar ever put together. It's complicated from one point of view, but it's also very simple. The Mayans were all into evolution and how that can be seen cyclically. In other words, we're all the human experience is one of ever more mature cycles of development and evolution. So they had looked at that from the beginning of history, and just looking at the stars discerned the time of the beginning of civilization, many of the landmarks in civilization. Johann Kalaman is a person that if people are interested in this, they would want to Google and see his site and take a look at his books about the Mayan calendar. But it all boils down to the fact that in December of 2012, the Mayans said this world or this evolution would take a huge advance, and there's not a lot of information from them about what kind of advance would take place in 2012. They talk about that the Earth would change at the same time a little bit, but not much, But there are other prophecies about Earth changes that would take place at the same time. So it's suddenly capture people's attention out there, and I think it's nice because we almost have a countdown now, starting right now, until 2012 in terms of having a kind of timeline for getting our souls into this evolution and progressing and evolving. Some people say 2012 is a kind of test point. Can we really be able to live spiritually, all of us, or enough of us, by 2012? So, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it is. And I've spent hours and hours and hours studying this now for the last couple of years. And essentially my take on it is that there are people who are of the mindset, understanding what we're talking about, about the Celestine prophecy and how that works and how our energy works and the insights. It is part of the evolution, and that we're in the final last 5 years of acceleration and more people waking up and more people understanding how much they affect the whole, how they affect the whole world, how they affect the whole universe. And I think it is so exciting to watch, because I think back 30 years ago, and I really didn't even want to be on this planet, to be very honest with you. And now, in the time of all that's going on, I'm actually very excited to be here, which surprises me, quite frankly.
Well, what we can talk about and now has changed dramatically, even since the early 90s. The reporters, scientists, politicians, all have sort of integrated the language of personal growth and the idea that there is a spiritual connection that one can not just believe in, but actually perceive and find evidence for within themselves. And this idea of personal growth and evolution, and how the difference between ego and soul evolution. I mean, we have the nomenclature now,
right,
to really have full conversations about all this.
And it's so much fun.
It is fun. Well, it's the most fun. I mean, it's what our souls want. It brings life out of the ordinariness of the everyday kind of routine. When we realize that we're here on a spiritual journey, that there's meaning to this existence, and that not only that, we're called, all of us, to do something special that will help push forward this evolution, and not only just be called, but remember that that's why we came as individuals. Right. And that is the height of fulfillment and inspiration and getting you out of bed in the morning. I mean, it's the antidote for depression, to really find something that you can do to make the world better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, it amazes me, because as far as my own evolution, and I'm very excited to be here. And I do want to make one more statement about 2012, is that there are a lot of people who are talking about it's the end of the world. It's not the end. It's a new beginning. That's how I look at it, and that's a matter of how you can look at something. And I choose to look at it as a new beginning. I mean, I look to choose that each moment is a new beginning, and from there, the more people who are understanding how that all works, and the more of us that are working together, it just all mushrooms out, and I can't wait for 2012.
Well,
I hope I'm right.
There may be trying challenges.
Yes, yes.
It could be that to really live spiritually, we're going to have to have material challenges and challenges that make us use this intuition, maybe even with our own survival at stake. I'm not sure about all that, but I think that it's just a reminder to get on the path, start to realize that we're guided intuitively. Mysterious coincidences are there, open opportunities, but we have to notice, and we have to walk through the door of opportunity to realize that we're guided through life. We're on a personal evolution. The world's evolution is evolving. And I think that we're just being tuned. And sure, there may be some economic breakdowns. There may be some weather challenges. There may be some shifts of geography around us. I don't know.
No,
I
nobody
do know,
knows.
though, that the more in tune we can be with this, and the more connected we can be, and the more we can be guided by intuition now, ahead of time, the better off we're going to be. And I think that it is going to be a shift, and I think primarily it's a spiritual shift and a shift toward a very positive jump in evolution for humanity.
I think that's a great place for us to end this lovely conversation. You did that so well. And I can't thank you enough, James. It was a pleasure to have this conversation. This is fabulous, and I hope we'll get a chance to do it again one of these days.
We should. And again, thanks for the work you're doing out there.
All right, thank
Stay
you.
with it.
All right. Well, enjoy 2008. Like I said, I'm really excited. I think 2008 is going to be a fabulous year. I don't know why, but my intuition tells me so. All right, thanks, James.
Listen, always fun.
I certainly hope you enjoyed my conversation with James Redfield, and want to remind you that the website is CelestineVision.com, all written out, CelestineVision.com. And I'd really like to encourage you to take a look at the insights there and check out the Global Prayer Project. My name is Kimberly, and the way to reach me is through email. My email address is commonground@WZLX.com. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks. This interview aired on WZLX in Boston on February 3rd of 2008, and thank you very much for listening to it here. I just want to remind you that if you like this program and you'd like to hear the program when it airs, you can tune in on WZLX.com Sunday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the live stream. Thank you very much for listening to this, and I'll be coming back with some more things as I go along. I'd love to hear your comments, and like I said, you can email me commonground@WZLX.com and let me know. Thanks. Enjoy. Be well. Love and light. Have a great day. Thanks.